on the buildings and on the World Trade Center? One. The largest attack on American soil. Larger, dwarfing Pearl Harbor, which, by the way, was a military installation. This was an attack on mothers and children, people going to work. 50,000 people in the World Trade Center. It had its own zip code. Not one stinking movie. Flight 93 was a movie, 2006, and they followed the transcript from the telecoms exactly because, God forbid, they get anything wrong. But they didn't run what went on in the cockpit. It was too much to take. I don't know why everything you watch today is such violence, always cutting people up, always opening, I mean, the violence is so gratuitous. I wonder if Alfred Hitchcock knows what he started with Psycho. But that was for terror. This is gratuitous bloodlust. But that said, not one movie. How many people in here have read the letters of the 9/11 terrorists? They left letters, homicide letters. So I see 2 hands in the whole of the room. How many times was Allah mentioned in those letters? Anybody know? 90 times. How do I know? I counted. You think anybody in the schools know about this? So they're allowed to exalt and exhort Allah, but if I mention it, if I bring it up, I'm a racist, Islamophobic, anti-Muslim bigot.
Yeah.
Whatever side of the aisle you're on this, it's wrong. Whether you hate me or disagree with me, it doesn't matter. You must see that it's wrong. That I cannot speak is wrong. Because I'm just a proxy here. This is a young person's issue. I am an old lady. I lived my life. I was free. I loved it. It was good. It's why I'm fighting so damn hard. I mean, think about how I came to this fight. For 9/11, I was a New York City career girl, the publisher of the New York Observer. I love my fashion, I love my music, I love my life, I love my art, I love my life. I didn't even think about freedom. I lived in a post-historical mindset. The good guys won after World War II. The good cop, America was on the beat. What's the problem? I never thought my freedom was in jeopardy, never. It was the air that I breathed. And I was shook on 9/11. I didn't know who would attack the country. And when I found out, I didn't understand why. So I set about reading Jihadic Doctrine, Robert Spencer, Wafa Sultan, Ibn Warwick, to understand. And this became my crime. My crime was in trying to understand this war on the West. And make no mistake about it. No one's talking about it, but there's a genocide going on in Africa right now. Christians slaughtered, wholesale slaughter, unimaginable slaughter, nothing. The Pope is busy advancing dawah, proselytizing for Islam. It's incredible. We live in an age where failing at your job cannot get you fired. We live in an age where a clumsy social media post can get you fired. They destroy people. They destroy people's good names. They destroy people's reputations. Let me tell you something, that too is a form of murder. Rendering someone unable to make a living is a form of murder. Big Brother is now Big Boss. They have the power to deprive you of your livelihood if you subscribe to politically incorrect views, whether online or off. You might bring the company into quote-unquote disrepute. So workers in the age of woke are expected to follow or risk termination. In every field, across public and private sectors, this top-down one thing and its enforcement are now core business. A competent and productive workforce is secondary to a correct thinking one. In an overarching thesis, American philosopher Elizabeth Anderson equates the modern day governance of workers in the West with, quote, communist dictatorships in our midst and cites a striking statistic. Millions are pressured by their employers to support particular political causes. I am sure that you know people that have suffered under this regime. The last frontier in this war is the internet. It is the battlefront, it is the battlefield in the information battle space. Social media platforms today represent the gravest threat to our freedom of speech because it is the public square. Last century, you had a telephone number. You call people, you talk to them. This century, you have an IP address. You messenger people, you talk to them. Imagine if AT&T listened to your phone conversations in the 1990s and decided you couldn't have a telephone because you were saying things that they just didn't agree with. Well, that's what's happening now. You're monitored, you're spied on. And that's not conspiracy, that's a fact. We know that. We know that. My colleagues and I have been scrubbed from Google search results. Understand, I've been doing this work since 2001. I've had a website since 2004. I used to be on the front page. We're gone. Jihad Watch, also gone. I've been banned by Google AdSense after CNN told them, don't run ads on Pamela Geller's site. That day, they terminated me with no appeal, with complete suspension. And let me tell you something, Google and Facebook, they're a duopoly. They're 95% of the ads online. You can't make a living. So what winds up happening? You can't do this work. You can't do this work. I mean, I do have some ads, everyone's complaining, your ads are so obnoxious. Listen, IT, cybersecurity, my webmaster, I'm attacked all the time, DDoS attacks. I need money to run the site. Forget about paying rent. This is what they do, they starve you, and all the time they talk about how rich the Islamophobia is. Where is this place? Where is this place? BC Care gets tens of millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia. They shut down, they target donors. Donors don't want their name in the papers. They know exactly what they're doing. It is a systematic shutting down of free speech. And one day you're going to wake up and you're not going to recognize the country that you're living in. My work is this. I am a human rights activist dedicated to freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, and equality for all before the law. I can speak to these issues. Why can I speak to these issues? I will tell you why. First off, I have filed well over a dozen lawsuits in as many American cities, free speech lawsuits, and I've won them all. Yep. And people say, oh, you know, she runs these ads, she provokes, she's provocative. Nonsense. I only ran ads in response to leftist, anti-Semitic, or anti-Israel ads. I see an ad, it was purely organic. I didn't have some grand master plan. I saw a disgusting ad, I was like, well, I saw an ad proselytizing for Islam. My very first ad, I was in Florida, and I was helping Rivka Barry, who was a Muslim girl who had converted to Christianity, and her parents were going to kill her. So we worked hard to make sure that Rivka Barry would not be sent back to her parents. CARE was funding her parents' lawyer. Anyway, I'm in Florida. I'm waiting for my ride to get to the White House where they want to put Rivka Barry back in that dangerous household where her parents wanted to kill her. If you have Jesus in your heart, I'm going to kill you. That's what her father said. And I see a bus pass by. It says, come to Islam. And I said, what about those like Rivka Barry leaving Islam? So I took their very ad and I said, leaving Islam? I said, is there a fatwa on your head? Is your family threatening you? And let me tell you something. I ran that ad, went down in 24 hours in Miami, and when it went up in New York, every mass media outlet was in my lobby. I was like, you know, I was like Marilyn Monroe when she came out of the insane asylum and she's wearing pajamas. I could not believe, it was, how dare you? How dare you offer help? That was the first ad, which, by the way, I went to put up in Dearborn, and I know that these ads help. conference for ex-Muslims in California.
Jesus.
And at that conference, 3 separate apostates came up to me and said that those bus ads got them help. So I would sue to get these ads up. They would reject my ads, I would sue. I mean, talk about a brouhaha. When there were anti-Israel ads running in New York City, I ran an ad that said, in any war between the civilized man and the savage, support the civilized man.
Oh,
support Israel. And for the first time in New York City history, over 100 years, they banned these ads. We sue, we won, and then what happens after we win, and this is not just New York, and Boston, and Washington, and Miami, and Chicago, and Seattle, and San Francisco, and Denver, they ban all political ads. They ban all issue-related ads. The Geller ban. Okay, this is America. It is extraordinary. Of course, for me, the upside is that the bastards can't run their ads either. Again, I can speak to this. I have never incited to violence. I have never exhorted to genocide. I speak in defense of freedom. This is my terrible, terrible crime. Now, in 2016, I filed a lawsuit, my firm, American Freedom Law Center, against the DOJ. Why the Department of Justice? The Department of Justice, we were challenging Section 230 under the FEC Code, which provides immunity from Facebook and Google and Twitter and YouTube, which allows these social media giants to engage in government censorship and discriminatory business practices free from legal challenge. Now, I submit to you that if anyone on the right had supported us, you would not be here now. I can only equate it to Czechoslovakia, you know? Once Hitler entered Czechoslovakia, it was over. I mean, you know, you could have done something. Now, it's like they're steamrolling every day over everyone. And I think legislative action is dangerous. I don't believe in nationalizing. I am a capitalist all the way, but I do believe that social media is the public square. And outside of inciting to murder, all speech is fair game. I'm not worried about the ideas of care. I'm not worried about Nazis. You know why? My ideas are better. I know I'm going to win. I am the big, bad boogeyman, but it is me who is the target of multiple assassination plots. Multiple. And, well, happily they failed. But it's why I have to have a team with me all the time. And because I dare to stand in defense of freedom. And everything that you've heard about me is a lie. The idea that I'm anti-Muslim. First of all, I help Muslim girls who want to live without hijab, who want to live free lives. I don't care about Islam. Honestly, I don't care. If you worship a stone, just don't stone me with it. The left has been trying to shut down all dissent for years. Now it has moved to openly calling for violence, and we see a glib politicization of mass murder. Outrage that leverages the innocent deaths to destroy reputations and the careers of others. Shootings by mentally unstable people who should have been institutionalized, but the left shut those institutions, by the way, should have been institutionalized, are being used to magnify a white supremacist threat. I mean, I'm a Jew and I'm a white supremacist, so it's anything goes, ladies and gentlemen. While they downplay the threat of jihad terror. Recently, an imam in Georgia said that jihad attacks in America are no longer necessary because Islam is winning. And this is true. All discussion about Islam and jihad and Sharia had been demonized and stigmatized. You can see it in the action. The action of CARE in the New York Daily News. There is the leftist Islamic Alliance. They tried to get this talk canceled, and let me tell you something. Generally, they succeed. We must stand with courage against such assaults, or we will lose our freedom. One of the last vestiges of our being a republic and not a democracy is the Electoral College. They want to destroy that now, too. Plato says democracy is the lasting generation of government before tyranny. And we're headed there. This is the replacement of the rights of man by the rights of the mob. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
And Trump is our proxy. Democrats fail to understand it. They think they are isolating him. Instead, they're insulting all of us who agree with him.
Hey.
We live in an age of amnesia. Across the world, most notably in the West, we are discarding the knowledge and the insights passed down over millennia and replacing it with politically correct bromides cooked up in the media and in academia. In some ways, this process recalls, in digital form, mind you, the Middle Ages, where conscious shaping of thought and manipulation of the past served political purposes. Ayn Rand, and I quote her because she is my philosopher. Ayn Rand, yes. Yeah. Props for Rand. Ayn Rand said, and I'm going to quote because I can't write it better than her, "It took centuries of intellectual, philosophical development to achieve political freedom. It was a long struggle, stretching from Aristotle to John Locke to the founding fathers. The system they established was not based on unlimited majority rule, but on the opposite, on individual rights, which were not to be alienated by the majority or minority plotting. The individual was not left at the mercy of his neighbors or his leaders. The constitutional system of checks and balances was scientifically devised to protect him from both. This was the great American achievement." I'm going to go on. America's intellectual leadership has collapsed. This is, to me, the problem. Betraying the very premise that made their existence possible, intellectuals are denying the intellect. Academic elites, intellectuals spend their time doing just this thing. It's a form of committing suicide. So, how did mankind emerge from the Dark Ages? The Renaissance was a result of Aristotle's influence. It's just that simple. He's responsible for the Renaissance, and which in effect destroyed the Middle Ages. Reason, logic, is man's only faculty for perceiving reality. This is fundamentally where the individualists, you and I, are juxtaposed to the collectivists, to the statists. Because the left doesn't believe in reason and reality and facts.
No.
They're the enemy. They believe in emotions and wishes. They act on blind belief. So, I mean, you know, today's climate change, another absurdity. When I was a kid, it was called ecology. Yeah, it was called ecology, another political fraud. So what is needed? You are needed. Intellectuals are needed. Thought leaders. This is curiously absent from the American scene. The old-style, present-day intellectual have declared their own bankruptcy by abandoning the intellect, and we need men and women who are willing to think, not get your talking points from me or anyone else. Think. There's so little of this today. This of all things frightens me the most. And it is by this reason, by this intellect, and not by whims and wishes, that we do not give in to the cult of despair. There is a cult of despair today, and cynicism and impotence. That's not who we are. You know who we are? Let me tell you who we are. We are happy warriors. We really are.
You're right.
The left is miserable. They are the most miserable, unhappy sons of bitches that I've ever crossed. And they hate our happiness. It is the hatred of the good for being the good. The founding fathers were America's first intellectuals because they were thinkers and they were men of action. And reason was their guide to reality. And man requires freedom in order to be guided by his judgment and his mind. And so, you know, when you go back to the French aristocrat, Alexis de Tocqueville, when he came to America in 1831 and 32, he was so struck by the profound differences between America and Europe that he wrote his book, Democracy in America, and he warned his countrymen that tremendous changes were coming as a result of the American Revolution. He began the book by noting that among the differences, nothing struck me more forcibly, he said, than the general equality of the condition of the people. He described the people in America as free, independent individuals who not only held equal rights under the law, but also related to one another as social equals. He actually coined the term, just so that you know, individualism. Where is this? Where is this now?
Fading fast.
This country was the first moral government in the history of the world, based on individual rights and freedom. And it was a logical fidelity to this very principle that was responsible for her magnificent and noble achievements. America's founders radically transformed humanity, essentially. The idea of an individual society and the role of government, that this new nation offered proof to the world that it was possible, or as Thomas Jefferson said, something new under the sun. Freedom. As I said, this is a young person's movement. This is your time. This is your movement. Make your mark on history. If history has taught us anything, it's that the individual can change the course of human events. Reason and morality are the only weapons that determine the course of history. The Democrats, the statists, have dropped them, have dropped reason, have dropped morality. You know why? Because they have no right to carry them. You have. Pick them up and get to work. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Guys, we're going to be doing moderated questions, so if you want to just form a line here, we will cut you off. Please form a line. Also, I just want to announce, we do reserve the right to remove anyone for being abusive or being ridiculous or anything of the sort, so please just be very courteous and civil. Thank you.
Sure not to be ridiculous.
Pamela,
Yes,
I
sir.
just want to introduce myself. This is Mark Layton. You and I have emailed for years, and I just want to thank you for being relentless.
I want to thank you for being steadfast, loyal, and true, and not giving up.
Great speech, Pamela.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on Netanyahu's decision to bar the two congresswomen from government?
I think it's interesting that, first, if I may make just an aside, the UK banned me for my support of Israel and my opposition to jihad terror. I was banned from the UK. Never heard a peep from the left. Never heard a word. These two women, these two vicious anti-Semites who are actively working to destroy the Jewish state, actively actively working in the boycott of the Jews movement. The BDS movement, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanction, is a movement to boycott the Jewish state. And let me tell you where the origins of this movement is. The origins of the BDS movement is in the Nazi Kristallnacht. It is the same thing. Before they started slaughtering Jews, years before, they held boycotts of Jewish businesses. It is a process to dehumanizing a people. This is a way of dehumanizing the Jewish people. So they want to boycott the Jewish state? Okay, we're boycotting you.
Yeah.
And we're always told about reciprocity, right? Reciprocity, then. I support it, in case there was any question.
Hi, I'm Jewish. I'm proud of my heritage.
Yay! A proud Jew, a dying breed.
I've been very concerned about the number of radicals we're producing, including Schumer, Nadler,
Woof. Poo.
Schiff, Mark Zuckerberg, I call Mark Schmuckerberg,
Spit.
and many others. Oh, Andrew Weissman was the true architect of the Mueller witch hunt.
Ooh.
What is your reaction to the number
A lot of Jews.
liberal Jews? You call them Chinos. Why do we produce
Chinos.
so many people?
Jews name only.
The Jewicidals, okay?
Jewicidals.
A couple of points I'd like to make. First of all, not to just point out the Jews, we see this across all peoples. You look at Hindus, they have suffered, I think, almost more than anyone, under the boot of jihad wars, cultural annihilations, enslavements, and then you have these Hindus who stand with care. The Pope, okay, you see the Pope up there. His
Idiot.
people are being slaughtered in Africa and the Middle East. I mean, literally, the Middle East, once a Christian region, has now been, Christians have literally been wiped off the map there. So, in all fairness, it's not just a Jewish thing, but let's get to the Jews. Okay? First of all, the people, the Jews that you cite, are cultural Jews. They're godless Jews.
Yeah.
They worship at the Church of Human Secularism. They like a bagel on Sunday. This is the extent of their Jewishness.
That's funny. Oh, that's great. She's good.
The religious Jews, by and large, I know they will have me speak, are decidedly on the right and with Trump all the way. But the left, this is their religion. Judaism is not their religion. They use it to destroy people like me. I mean, how many Jewish groups? Even the UJA in Los Angeles canceled the talk of mine because CARE, vicious anti-Jewish group, demanded that I be canceled. And let me tell you something, nothing is smellier than a coward, a spineless, gutless wonder who doesn't stand up for the courage of their conviction.
Yay.
And one last thing, if I may, about the left-wing Jews. They have plagued my people for a very long time. Let's go all the way back, shall we, to Moses. Moses goes up the mountain, yes, to get those tablets, to get the rule of law, the 10 Commandments. And meanwhile, down there, the Democrats start making a golden calf.
Oh, that's great.
Those were the leftists.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's the same picture. When Moses sent the 10 Jews, 12 Jews into the promised land, and he asked, is it good? Is it safe? Can we go there? 10 came back and said, it's terrible, you can't go. 2 Republicans came back and said, it's great, let's go. It's the same breakdown, the 70-30, the 80-20, it's the same breakdown as today with the Jews. Stick with the 20%. There's nobody there.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes, I read your book, Fatwa, and I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you.
But I noticed that in the book you consistently condemn radical Islam and extremist Islam, and yet normal people do not condemn radical communism or extremist Nazism. So why don't you identify the enemy for what it is, which is to say Islam? Why do you make a distinction between Islam, which is a false and evil philosophy? Why do you instead call it radical and extremist Islam?
Okay. You have not read my book. I never use the term radical Islam, ever. As the president of Turkey said, Recep Erdogan said to President Obama, there is no moderate Islam, there is no extreme Islam. Islam is Islam. And I totally agree. The thing is, there are secular Muslims, there are moderate Muslims that don't subscribe, don't adhere to the jihadic doctrine. The problem with Islam, unlike, let's say, Judaism, where we are encouraged to question, we are encouraged to think. Under Islam, reformation, questioning, is the crime of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy, like apostasy, is punishable by death. You cannot reform Islam. You cannot change Islam. This is the problem. Islam needs a reformation, much like the Vatican II. And I have never said that. I have never said that. My problem is not with Muslims. My problem is with the ideology that calls for the slaughter of the unbelievers. Strike them at their hearts. Smite them at their necks. This is my problem, because that's exactly what we're seeing here on an almost daily basis in places across the world. This very war that we are supposed to deny at our own peril. Certainly Europe did, and look at the shit they're in now.
So in other words, you're saying that Islam is just as false and evil as Nazism and communism?
I'm saying Islam is Islam. Islam is a comprehensive system. It's not just religious, it is military, it is legal, it is dietary, it is social, encompasses every basic aspect of human life. And it's anti-human. Old-time warrior. I just want to salute to the old-time warriors here. We have Pamela Hall. Pamela Hall on the camera in the back. We were back 10, 15 years ago at the anti-Bush rallies, covering the anti-war rallies. Great. We have Jean-Patrick Grunberg, the great French Israeli journalist, is here. He writes for Druez. Thank you. We have Alyssa Lappin, we have some great warriors in the audience. Unsung heroes, but this is the nature of the animal.
Don't sing about me, sing about you.
No.
Listen, I was really encouraged within the last few months to see that there was a legal decision called David Repulican that Trump and other people who want to eliminate critics on their Twitter page can't do it because it's against